Why do you pray? Why do you ask others to pray for you? What is it about the concept of prayer that people run to it for protection, for clarity, for peace of mind, for a desired outcome? Great things, great things, great things. Welcome in to Words on a Higher Note, our space to reflect, reset, rise, and remember who we really are beneath the layers. I'm your host, JLyn, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's topic, power of prayer, is full of questions that may come across as doubt in practice, but is not. I believe that nothing happens without the permission of God. If this is the case, why spend time praying if God has the last word? Are your prayers empty words going to deaf ears? Or does your prayer reach God's ears and He takes into consideration your request? In reflection number 24, the beauty of being redirected, I said, nothing happens without the permission of God. And I stand by that. And if we know this, why do we pray? Do we think that we can change God's will? Or do we pray in hopes of getting God's attention and pleading for our loved ones, ourselves? If we truly believe that everything rests in the will of God, is it contradictory to pray? Is it contradictory to ask for an outcome that may be contrary to God's will? And if in knowing this we ask anyway, are we going against what we say we believe? I pray because it forces me to realize that the ultimate outcome is not in my hands, because nothing happens again without the permission of God. I recently saw a quote that coins it perfectly. It says, worry indicates an area where you are striving independently rather than trusting God. Peace begins where self reliance ends. We can't do this by ourselves. We need the help of God by whatever name you may call him or her, depending on how you see it. And this is what happened in the hospital with my 90-year-old mom. She was in the ER due to reoccurring abdominal pain. After taking a CAT scan, the surgery department rushed down to say it was a ruptured appendix and wanted to perform surgery because the appendix must come out. I'm listening and looking intently at them. In my head, I'm saying, she's 90 years old with health challenges, and you want to rush her into surgery? Then, after they finished their spiel, I said out loud, I asked, are there other options before we get to surgery? Now, that one question opened the door for them to explain the other options. But if I had not asked, they would not have shared because their department's goal is to perform surgery. I informed my family of what was going on. And my niece immediately said she was contacting her prayer warriors. You might ask, what are prayer warriors? Are their prayers more special? Do they have a secret door to God? No. Prayer warriors are people who pray for others. They believe that God hears prayers and they call on God as a group, as a unit. I was praying also. I was praying for my mom's healing and for God to steady her and steady the doctors, steady her health for her to be able to successfully come through the surgery if it had to go that way. To steady the surgeon's desires to cut and steady their hands if they had to cut. All I could do was release it to God through earnest prayer. And I held tight to something from 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, that reminds us God will not let you be tempted or tested beyond what you can bear. But when you are tested, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. And it also states in the Holy Quran in chapter 2, verse 286, that Allah imposes not on any soul a duty beyond its scope. Mom was admitted to the hospital. For the first 24 to 36 hours, the surgical team kept saying surgery is necessary and it must happen. On the second day, someone from the team said no surgery at this time. On the third day, the surgeon said if there's no fever, my mom could go home in 2 days. Within hours, you hear me, hours, the surgeon's assistant said 1 day. And we asked them to repeat it. It's like, wait, what just occurred? We went from needing surgery now to not having surgery now to going home in 2 days to 1 day in what seemed like record time. And my mind went to the saying in Surah 8, Ayat 30 of the Holy Quran. They planned, but Allah also planned, and Allah is the best of planners. My mind immediately went to the power of prayer and our asking God to intervene, all in the form of a blessing. Nothing happens without the permission of God. In the Bible, in the book of James, chapter 5, verse 16, it says, the effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. Could this mean that a sincere, heartfelt prayer of a person striving to be right in the eyes of God has great power and their prayers can bring about results? And the Holy Quran says something similar. Chapter 40, Al-Mu'min, the believer, verse 60, it states, and your Lord says, pray to me, I will answer you. Could this mean when a believer prays to God, God will answer? Let me be crystal clear. I don't believe that someone who is not living a righteous life or someone who doesn't claim to be a believer in God will not have their prayers answered. I don't believe that at all. Because God sees what we see not, and he knows the true character of all of us. And have you ever been in a situation where your praying seemed to change what you said would happen? Or prayed and what you prayed for came to be? I have. I know a few people who witnessed this with something as simple as a parking space. I have a friend who, where she lived at, they had to park on the street. And if she went home late at night, parking was usually not available. So what she started doing, as she would be on her way home, she would start praying for a parking space nearby. And I think it was maybe like 9.5 times out of 10, she would get a parking space right in front of her door, even if it was across the street, but it was right by her door. And I have prayed for parking spaces, and one was available right where I needed it to be. There's a saying that prayer moves mountains. And now, I don't believe that this is an actual mountain that is referring to, but the situations that show up in our life that take on the size of a mountain. In the book of Mark, chapter 11, verses 23 and 24, Jesus says, "Say to the mountain, be removed, and without doubt in your heart, pray, believing that you will receive them and you will have them." Faith moves mountains through prayer, and prayer can move what feels impossible. In our prayer, we must have patience because God moves in His time, not ours. And this is witnessed in the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 153. It says, "Seek help through patience and prayer. Indeed, Allah is with the patient." And I ask, why do you pray? Is it because your prayers come to be? Is it because it helps you go through a situation? Why? I pray because it calms me. I pray in hopes that God will hear my prayer and make come to pass the requested outcome. Sometimes it does and sometimes it does not. When it doesn't, I do not lose faith in those moments. I know that God knows best, and what I am praying for isn't meant for me at this time, or maybe never. And I pray because it forces me to realize that the ultimate outcome is not in my hands, because nothing happens without the permission of God. If anything I've said resonated with you, a thought, a feeling, a moment of clarity, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button, and share the reflection with others. This conversation isn't over. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Answer, why do you pray? You know that feeling when you make a choice that puts your life in a tailspin and the future suddenly feels both thrilling and uncertain. That's the heart of By Way of Yinka's new ebook, No Pot in Sight, but Still I Must Go. It's full of genuine stories and practical steps for the emotional and financial fallout of a big career move. It's the kind of book that holds your hand through the uncertain moments and helps you find the next step. You will also get a free financial grounding kit that includes budget and debt payoff sheets. Visit nopotinsight.com to purchase your copy. Thank you for joining us. This is Words on a Higher Note, where reflection meets elevation, where grace meets growth, where personal evolution is not rushed, but embraced, honored, and celebrated. Until next time, keep listening for the higher note. Say, be, and it is.